Welcome to Snooze Worthy, a podcast by Parenting Practice of Colorado, your window into the world of pediatric sleep, where we explore the science behind sweet dreams, effective sleep teaching techniques, and all the intriguing nuances of your child's slumber. I'm your host, Lindsay Birchfield.
And I'm Paige Legault. Together, we're here to guide you through the labyrinth of parenting, offering insights, strategies, and science-backed advice to make parenting during those early childhood years not just manageable, but truly memorable.
As pediatric sleep specialists, we've seen the transformational power of sleep in countless families.
And because parenting is a journey, we won't stop at sleep. We'll provide you with valuable parenting tips for every aspect of early childhood, from managing tantrums to fostering creativity and hitting those all-important milestones.
So whether you're a seasoned parent in need of a sleep overhaul or a new parent preparing for the joys and challenges of early childhood, Snooze Worthy is your trusted resource. Join us as we unravel the science of sleep, share practical advice, and make parenting truly snooze-worthy. Hi, and welcome back to Snooze Worthy. So I'm Lindsay Birchfield, one of the hosts here, and today's episode is a totally special one because it's really going to be a peek behind the curtain at parenting practice. So I'm sitting here with Natalie, one of our incredible senior sleep specialists who supports families every day with just such heart and intention. We just love having you part of the team.
Thank you.
We talk a lot about sleep science and routines and rhythms here on our podcast, but today is really just talking about people. So the moms and the women behind the work that we do. So we're going to be diving into Natalie's journey. We're going to be diving into motherhood, finding how you got there, your path to sleep work, and what it's really like walking alongside families through such a personal session. So welcome, Nat. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So let's start with this. Can you share a little bit about your background and what actually led you into the world of pediatric sleep?
For sure. So I think it's the non-traditional route probably, but I think that's what's cool about doing this is I don't think you wake up one morning and think, oh, I'm going to be a baby, toddler, child sleep coach, right? Like you kind of move your way into it depending on the seasons that you're in. So for me personally, I got my master's in special education from DU 2019 to 2020. And at the same time, I was pregnant with my first Ella. And then the world shut down, right? And so I didn't go back to teaching. But I had completed my program there, my residency in special education, and became a mom. And I was, of course, because I'm a nerd at heart, I read every book, every strategy. And that's also when Instagram started booming with, I guess, like the term influencers or support specialists, all the things, right? And I learned so much. And Ella was a solid sleeper. She was an amazing sleeper. I textbooked, I followed it. Looking back, I have 3 now. I think it was actually a lot more challenging than I remember, but I was so rigid about I have to follow what this person says, right? And then I had Audrey, I had my second, and Audrey humbled me in a way that reminded me, and I know this as a special education teacher, every child is completely unique. And especially when it comes to sleep, there are so many different layers. There are so many nuances. And that's also when I met you. And so our paths crossed, we became good friends. And I kind of learned a little bit more about just the importance of having that support system when you're in the thick of it, but also the importance of sleep. Because when I wasn't getting sleep with Audrey, it drastically affected me. And I think as moms, we have this narration that we have become accustomed to where you're supposed to suffer. You're supposed to be exhausted, right? And that's what I was feeling. And then coming on the other side of it, once I was sleeping, once I was getting rest, it was like night and day, right? And so it changes your whole perspective. And so kind of just being that in conjunction with getting to know you, getting to know what you do, my love and my passion for working with families one-on-one uniquely and in a completely different realm kind of led me to becoming certified. And so that's how I got the certification. I came on board with parenting practice. I always like to say, when I started out, it was mainly about yes, sleep for your child is so important, right? There's all these studies, all the science and stuff behind it. But over the past couple of years of doing this, that has bled into more of why this is so important for the mom. It's a double-edged sword in the sense of it can not only affect your child, but it can affect you as a mom too. And so that's kind of like, I guess, the passion and the fire behind what I do now is to support moms, to support their little ones in a way that feels good and holistic for them, but using these practical science-backed strategies as well. So
Yeah.
long way to kind of get there, but that's how I got here.
Well, I love it. And we're so excited that you're here and that you're so
Thank you.
passionate, and love that you really do have a heart for the moms that you're working with. And that, yes, it's so important for our children, but it's
Yeah.
so important also for us as
Yes.
mamas to be well
Mhm.
rested, to be able to show up as the best version of ourselves. And
Totally.
as you mentioned, you have 3 little ones of all different ages and all different types of personalities. Like you said, not one kiddo is made the same. They're
Totally.
all very different. They're all just made to be who they are. But
Yeah.
I think we learn something from each of our kiddos. And so, as
100%.
being a mom and having kiddos that have such different personalities and
Mhm.
things like that, what have you taken from your experience as a mama to really help influence the way that you're working with families or kiddos of different ages or different personalities, temperaments, that thing?
Totally. And I think it depends on the age because as they get older, I think when you move into more of that preschooler age, it becomes a lot about just how they respond, how they feel heard, how they feel supported. But I think it's just understanding when you look at a child, no matter their age, whenever I start that approach with a family, I look at the whole family as a whole and the child as a whole. And it's not just like, how are they sleeping at night? I look at everything. We look at their caloric intake. We look at what they're eating. We look at how much activity they're getting. We look at any sort of sensory input that they might be needing. There's a lot of different elements. And so I always like to think of it as each child is like a puzzle. And as I go through, as I get to work with these families, each piece of the puzzle slowly comes together. And that's the same as with motherhood. Like your child, all 3 of my kids respond differently to different things. And it's trying to learn that while still being able to support them, give them the guidance that they need. But, especially as they get a little older, like making sure we do have clear boundaries because that makes them feel safe and heard. Setting up good habits from day one. Quinn is the perfect example of that. I didn't have to do a darn thing for the girl. The girl literally just did everything on her own. And that's just because there's a couple different things. There's temperament, there's sleep needs, all the things, but a lot of it is starting day one, laying down these good foundations. Not to say that you
Never
can't,
too late
it's
and
never too
never
late.
too
Like you're
early,
not
right?
doomed, right?
That's
I had a call.
too late, never too early.
Totally. I had a call and the mom was like, she's 16 months old. Is it too late? No, that's why we work with kids all the way up to the 12 years of age. You can
Absolutely.
always start implementing these good habits. But yeah, I think it's that combination of taking what I know as a mom, but also then using the science, the data, the research, and the certification, the process that we've gone through to uniquely look at a child because no one child is going to be the same at all. And we know that, but I think sometimes it's nice to hear. I think families need to hear that so they
Yeah.
don't think it's so much of a blanket statement or like a copy paste type of a thing.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about the work that we do. Yeah, of course, you can go online. You could even
Mhm.
go to ChatGPT and ask,
Yep.
what is a sleep plan for this age range?
Right.
And it's going to give you at least the basics. But what we can bring to
Totally.
the table is years of experience of working with kiddos of all different kinds. And we
Mhm.
understand that it's not just about sleep, that it's a bigger picture. And
Exactly.
I love that we can bring that expertise and that guidance and that
Mhm.
support to our families. Thank you for giving us insight into that. So
Yep.
the next thing, it kind of is in the same vein, is there's so many misunderstandings out there
Mm.
when it comes to sleep teaching, when it comes to, just work with children in general. And so what is the biggest misunderstanding you think that's out there about sleep training in general?
I think the biggest one, and I think this is why there's so many reasons why I think this is the biggest one. I think that the misunderstanding or the idea that sleep teaching, sleep training is harsh or damaging, or it's somehow going to ruin your attachment and your bond with your child. That is true fear mongering. And that really, me, this is like a big thing that I yell from the rooftops about. It it's a very, very scary thing for, especially as a first time mom, when you're trying to navigate sleep deprivation and all the things to hear, well, if you do this, you're going to ruin your child.
Right.
So no, that is not true at all. We have science, all the information behind it. But when you're scrolling your phone and somebody says you're damaging your child, that's going to hit hard, which it shouldn't, but it does. Like as a mom, of
Absolutely.
course that's going to hit hard. So I think that's the biggest misconception when it comes to it. There are many different ways to support when it comes to sleep. And I think the main thing to understand is that attachment isn't formed when sleep happens. Attachment is something that happens throughout the day. It's your interactions with your child. It's the way that you respond, right? Yes, of course, we respond certain ways and different ways throughout any sort of process, but we're doing it in a loving manner. It's not like it's nearly as, I think, cutthroat as people think it is. It's a very gentle approach, and attachment, security, all of that is woven into all of these sleep plans that we create for our families. It's not just, nope, you sit them in the crib and they have to,
Right.
leave them and then they have to figure it out. There's a lot of, and that kind of where it comes like looking at the whole picture, there's a lot of a security attachment things that we implement throughout the day. So by the time nighttime comes, they feel like their tiny little love cup is filled up. So I just think it just breaks my heart when moms come to me thinking that they're going to damage or ruin their child by providing a scientific biological need for their child. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I hear you. And I feel that exact same way. And it's really unfortunate that just
Yeah,
that little piece of information has been taken out of context and is
totally.
used as, like you said, a fear mongering
Mm,
thing. Because as we talk about, right, attachment takes years and years to be established. It
yes.
means meeting your child's needs over and over again. And sleep
Yes.
is such an important need that our children and we have. And I
Yeah.
think it's just really unfortunate that we just let it go to the side like,
Mhm.
well, that's just not a necessary thing. It will come
Right.
a time where it's such a significant need for
Right.
mental and physical and emotional health. And
Yes.
so I'm so glad that we can be advocates for sleep and helping children to learn sleep in a way where we are keeping that secure attachment there,
Yeah.
but meeting such an important need of theirs
100%. Yeah.
as well. So, in this kind of same vein, what is one piece of advice that you personally find yourself giving over and over and over to your clients? And you just wish that every parent knew, like it came in a parent manual when you had a baby.
Man, the biggest piece of advice, I think when initially on the calls, like when I get calls and people are like, these are my sleep challenges, this is the struggles that I'm going through. I think the biggest thing is people mistaking sleepy cues to the need for sleep pressure and the buildup of sleep pressure to allocate good sleep. And so by this, I mean, a lot of times I think parents think their child is tired, but they're not totally grasping the whole picture. And so a lot of times I will actually say, most of the times I will say, extend those wake windows even more. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm telling families. And they're like, but they're showing, like they're rubbing their eyes, they're tired, and I need to follow their sleepy cues, especially in that baby age. Yes, 100%. We want to respect those sleepy cues, but a lot of times they can be misleading and they're not totally accurate. And so that's why I always think the most important thing is encompassing both wake windows, right? That adequate amount of sleep pressure. And then, of course, pay attention to your child, their temperament, their individual needs. But I think most of the time, I tell families they actually need longer wake windows, especially if they're taking short naps. They're really struggling to fall asleep. There's multiple overnight wake ups. It's those icky early mornings, right? A lot of times is just gradually extending those wake windows. I don't think there's enough sleep pressure built up. And I think once that kind of clicks, then naps kind of start to fall into place. Then bedtime starts to fall into place. So, and I think that's one that probably not a lot of parents, moms, whoever assume, right? They just think, oh, my child's a bad sleeper. No,
Right.
there's a science behind it, right? They just might need a little bit more sleep pressure to help build it up so they can sleep successfully.
Yes. And I love that. I'm glad that you did highlight that because I think when you do talk about sleep, there's so much out there about overtiredness
Yeah.
and avoiding overtiredness and being afraid of overtiredness. Now, overtiredness in a newborn is really hard to manage.
Oh,
So we do want to avoid that. But as a child gets older, we have to make sure we're balancing that true
mhm.
biological need for the appropriate amount of sleep pressure.
Yeah.
And when a baby is sleep deprived or is not on a good schedule, their body is not going to cue right. And
Yeah.
so like you said, sometimes you have to get the parent away from looking at all the cues and go in to look at what is more appropriate for that age range. And
Totally.
boom, all of a sudden it all comes together. And so
Exactly.
that's the art and the science of what we do. It's like, it's both, right?
Yeah.
It's not one or the other. So I love that you highlighted that because it is definitely more rare and not talked about as much, even
Yeah,
though
I think
it's
so.
so important. So lastly, what does a restful night look like for you in your home, right? And are there anything that you do to help yourself unwind at the end of the day?
Yeah, totally. So I think that's a good question because I think there's two very different answers depending on who I am answering for. My
Yeah.
children, fantastic.
Mhm.
Everyone is asleep and in bed by 7 p.m. I have a 5.5 year old, almost 5.5 year old, almost 3.5 year old, and a 19-month old. So they love bed. Like, and that to me is success right there. They feel comfortable, they feel safe, they love bedtime routine. Especially now that the older ones are a little older, we have like special little things that I do with each of them. I do like a today's story song with Audrey, and we do the happy hard part with Ella. And so it's providing those connection times, which is really cool to see because they're humans, they're tiny little humans now. And so that is, of course, a beautiful thing to have, is that your children are getting good sleep.
Mhm.
They feel comfortable about it. Of course, not every night is perfect, right? They're
Mhm.
5 and
We're
3 and
human.
months,
Yeah.
right? They're humans, they're spicy girls, but for the most part, they are really like they're really, really secure in their routine, in that sleep, and their need for sleep. It's even cool too. They'll, mommy, I'm really tired. Like they can verbalize that now. They know that feeling. They're so in tune with their body that they're able to say, I need to rest. So that's really cool. Now, on the other side, me, I am not very good at it and I do not follow what I preach, but I'm trying to get better.
Yes.
So I usually do a lot of my work at night. That's when I catch up on things, especially when it comes to like content creation, all that kind of stuff, laundry, even. So I need to get better. And maybe this is just a way to make me more self aware. But things I do, I always take my calm magnesium. I always drink my tart cherry juice. I
Mhm.
use my red light glasses, thanks to you.
Love
So
those.
like it helps, block that blue light and
Yep.
prep my body, at least start to boost that melatonin production. And then I just need to get better at going to sleep earlier. But we take things with where we can. And so I'm trying to get better at that. So maybe in a few months, whenever this airs, I'll do a self check-in to make sure I'm actually doing that.
I love that. But at least now you have the time. That's
Yeah,
the other thing, right? When your kids are
totally.
solid sleepers, you can put them down, and guess what? You now have some time
Yeah,
to get a few things done and checked off your list, which
absolutely.
or which is just a beautiful blessing in and
Yeah.
of itself.
Yeah. Mike and I have time together. My husband and
Exactly.
I have a husband too. He's a great sleeper. He could sleep standing up, so he's not a problem. But yeah, it's also nice too to just be able to have time with him because we're in a very busy season of life right now and we don't go on a
Mhm.
lot of dates. And so it's
Right.
just nice being able to have that time to also connect with him too.
Absolutely. And friends, right? You got to have your girls'
Yeah,
nights. And it's
girl,
wonderful to be able
we
to
love our
walk
girls' nights.
husband, dads can do it. And guess what? You can go enjoy yourself a glass of wine. So
Exactly.
we're winning, right?
Absolutely. I love it.
Awesome. So when and how can people get a hold of you?
Sure, sure. So I'm on Parenting Practices website. If I offer free sleep evaluation calls. I also offer the one-on-one programs that we offer and the sleep rescue call too. But I'm on your guys' website. I do some of your content as well, so you'll see my face pop up there too. And then I also am on my Instagram, which is just Natalie Zaun. But yeah, a lot of it is cross posting of both channels. That's literally what I live and breathe and do. So that's where you can find me. I am not on the TikTok. I am true millennium or millennial.
Yeah.
I do not.
We're a little too old for the TikTok.
I don't understand it. So
They're great TikTokers on our team, but you and I
yes,
are all IG, you know?
I am solely IG. That is
Yes,
me. But
I
yeah, that's how
know.
you can
You're
find
just
me.
cut and paste millennials. It would
Yeah.
be you. Awesome. So if you're listening and thinking, I'd love this kind of guidance, obviously go to our website, look at us, book a free sleep evaluation call. But we also have an awesome membership here at Parenting
Mhm.
Practice. And in this membership, you'll get access to specialists like myself and to Natalie. And we do live calls and Q&As. We do some group sleep training. And so it's a great place to get awesome support like this at a very low cost investment. So go check that out. And we would love to have you join that. So thanks so much, Nat, for jumping on today
Of
and being
course.
with us. And thank you to our listeners for being part of our community. And until next time, here's more rest for you and your family. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye.